The observation deck of the Valkor ship hummed with tension as Corveth watched the strange ritual unfold below. His pack brothers stood beside him, their luminescent eyes fixed on the human in the nursery chamber. Dr. Mara Ellen sat cross-legged, on the floor, surrounded by 5 Valkor cubs who should have been eating from the automated feeders installed specifically for their care. Instead, they waited. "This makes no sense," growled Thane, Corveth's second-in-command. "The cubs have access to prime nourishment. The feeders are filled with the finest protein synthesizers in 3 sectors. Why do they refuse?" Corveth's tail lashed behind him, a sign of his growing unease. The Valkor were a proud species, apex predators who had conquered their homeworld through strength and pack unity. When the human xenobiologist had arrived at their station 3 cycles ago to study their young, he had been skeptical, but willing. Humans were weak creatures, soft-skinned and slow without claws or natural armor. Yet they had somehow spread across the galaxy like a persistent fungus. Now those same weak hands were cradling his nephew, the smallest of the cubs, and the little one was purring. Dr. Ellen's voice drifted up through the observation speakers, soft and melodic. She wasn't speaking Valkor or even using the standard translation matrix. She was making sounds in her native tongue, nonsensical words that somehow made the cub's ears perk up with interest. "There we go, little one," she cooed, offering a small portion of processed meat. "Just a tiny bite. That's it. You're so brave." The cub, who had refused all sustenance for 2 days, opened his mouth and accepted the offering. Corveth's claws extended involuntarily. Impossible. But it wasn't impossible. It was happening. One by one, Dr. Ellen fed each cub by hand, her movements patient and deliberate. She touched their heads, stroked behind their ears, made those strange human sounds that the translation software labeled as baby talk. And the cubs, fierce Valkor young who would one day grow into warriors capable of tearing through reinforced steel, ate from her hands like domesticated pets. "We need to intervene," Thane insisted. "This is unnatural. She's doing something to them. Some kind of human manipulation." Corveth raised his hand, silencing his brother. Wait. He had been watching Dr. Ellen for 3 cycles now, studying her as intensely as she studied his people. Humans were deceptive creatures, yes, but not in the way other species were deceptive. They didn't rely on venom or camouflage or pheromone manipulation. Their deception was more subtle, more dangerous. They made you trust them. Dr. Ellen looked up suddenly, her brown eyes meeting Corveth's gaze through the observation window. She couldn't possibly see him through the one-way transparent aluminum, yet somehow she knew he was there. She smiled, that peculiar human expression that showed teeth without threat, and gestured for him to come down. Against every instinct screaming in his warrior's mind, Corveth went. The nursery smelled of milk and the sweet musk of cubs. Dr. Ellen sat in the center of the chaos, a cub draped across her lap, another climbing her shoulder, 2 more play-fighting near her feet. She looked completely at ease, as if being surrounded by infant predators was the most natural thing in the universe. "Alpha Corveth," she said, her translator rendering the formal greeting. "Would you like to feed your nephew?" Corveth approached cautiously, aware that his own imposing frame filled half the chamber. He was 3 times the human size, built for combat and dominance. Yet Dr. Ellen showed no fear. She simply held out the smallest cub, offering him like a gift. "He won't eat from the machines," Corveth said, his voice a low rumble. "No," Dr. Ellen agreed. "He won't." "Why?" The human's expression shifted, becoming thoughtful. "May I speak freely, Alpha?" "Always. Your people are hunters, pack predators. On Earth we have similar species, wolves, lions, painted dogs, social carnivores who raise their young communally." She stroked the cub's head, and it leaned into her touch. "These babies don't need food dispensed from a machine. They need connection. They need to know they're part of something bigger than themselves. They need touch, presence, engagement." Corveth's ears flattened. "We provided sustenance, protection, climate control, everything required for survival." "Survival isn't living," Dr. Ellen said softly. She stood, still cradling the cub, and approached him. Your people conquered the stars through pack bonds, through loyalty and connection. These cubs feel abandoned by those bonds. The machines are efficient, but they're empty. No warmth, no pack scent, no heartbeat to sleep against. She placed the cub in Corveth's arms. The little one immediately nuzzled into his chest fur, seeking his scent, his warmth. Something ancient stirred in Corveth's chest, a feeling he hadn't experienced since his own cubhood. They don't eat from the machines because machines aren't pack, Dr. Ellen continued. They eat when I feed them because I sit with them. I touch them. I make them feel safe and wanted. She met his eyes again. It's not manipulation, Alpha. It's love, and your cubs are starving for it. The word didn't translate well. The Valkor had concepts for loyalty, for pack bonds, for duty. But this human word, love, carried nuances his language couldn't quite capture. It implied vulnerability, softness, things warriors didn't traffic in. Yet as Corveth held his nephew, felt the tiny heartbeat against his chest, he understood. Show me, he said quietly. Dr. Ellen smiled again, this time with something that looked like pride. Sit with me. They sat together on the floor, the massive predator and the small human, surrounded by cubs who immediately sensed the shift in energy. Dr. Ellen demonstrated how to offer food, how to stroke and soothe, how to simply be present. Corveth followed her lead, his deadly claws surprisingly gentle as they caressed soft fur. The cub in his arms began to eat. By the time the other pack members entered the nursery, drawn by curiosity and concern, they found their alpha sitting cross-legged like a human, 5 cubs climbing over him, feeding from his hands while Dr. Ellen watched with quiet satisfaction. The humans have a saying, she told him. It takes a village to raise a child. Your cubs don't need better technology, Alpha Corveth. They need their village. They need their pack. Corveth looked at the woman who had taught him something his warrior training never could. That strength wasn't just about conquest and dominance. Sometimes the strongest thing a predator could do was choose gentleness. Thank you, Dr. Ellen, he said, the words carrying weight his species rarely expressed. Call me Mara, she replied. That's what pack does. Around them, the other Valkor began to sit, began to reach for the cubs, began to remember what it meant to be more than just warriors. They were hunters, yes, predators, absolutely. But first they were pack, and the human had reminded them of that.